Have you ever felt totally stuck, like you're in this loop of starting a new habit and then, poof, you fall right off the wagon? Yeah, you're not alone. But what if the secret to actually changing wasn't about pushing harder? We're going to dive into a really simple psychological tool that might just be the missing piece you've been looking for.
Just let that sink in for a second. Imagine no more forcing it, no more grinding, no more depending on that willpower that always seems to run out. This isn't just some feel-good quote. It's a real psychological thing. And it points to an almost effortless way to make the changes you really want to make.
We're always told, right? To change, you need more discipline, more grit. You've got to have more willpower. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? This idea, it flips the script. It suggests that the most powerful tool for change is something every single one of us already has, our own attention.
Okay, so first, let's talk about a struggle I think we all know way too well. I call it the willpower trap. Oh, you know this feeling. You set a goal, right? You're going to exercise more, you're going to eat healthier, you're going to stop procrastinating. And you start out so strong, just full of motivation. But sooner or later, that willpower just feels drained. And when it's gone, we feel like we failed. It is such a frustrating cycle. But here's the thing. The problem isn't you, it's the strategy.
So, if willpower isn't the answer, what is? Well, let's get into this simple, but honestly pretty profound alternative: the observer effect. This right here, this is the game changer. It's a concept from physics, actually, where just observing something can change it. And it turns out the same thing applies to our own minds. When you just consciously watch a habit, and this is key, without judging yourself or trying to force anything, the behavior itself just naturally starts to shift.
And that's the big insight here. The thing that actually kicks off the change isn't some huge, dramatic action. It's the quiet, simple act of paying attention. Awareness is the first step, and honestly, it's often the most important one. You're basically shining a spotlight on your own behavior, and things that like to hide in the shadows of our minds, well, they tend to change once they're brought into the light.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? Turns out it's a really simple, actionable plan.
It's really this straightforward. First, pick just one thing. Seriously, don't try to track everything. Maybe it's how many times you check your phone, or how much water you drink. Second, pick a super simple tool to track it. And third, and this is the most crucial part, track it with zero judgment. You are not trying to hit a target. You're just a scientist, curiously collecting data about yourself. That's it.
The absolute key here is to keep it simple. You do not need some complex system. A plain old notebook is amazing for adding notes, like I reached for a snack because I was feeling stressed. Apps can be great, especially if they log things automatically. And you know what? For something you do a lot, you can't beat simple tally marks on a sticky note. The best tool is the one you'll actually use, because consistency is so much more important than complexity.
So what is the magic here? Why is just looking at our own behavior so incredibly powerful? Let's unpack the psychology of why this works.
You know, our brains are funny. We usually operate on feelings. We feel like we had a super unproductive week, or we feel like we ate terribly. But our feelings, they are notoriously bad at keeping score. They get skewed by our mood or by what just happened 5 minutes ago. Data, on the other hand, is objective. It shows you exactly what happened, and it cuts through all that emotional drama and just shows you the truth.
Once you start tracking, you see patterns you would have totally missed otherwise. You might notice, whoa, I only crave junk food around 3 p.m. on weekdays. That's not a feeling. That's a fact you can actually do something with. This creates this incredible feedback loop for your brain. See, when your actions, which are now visible as data, don't quite line up with the person you see yourself as, your brain feels this little bit of tension, and it naturally wants to close that gap, which leads to these small, almost subconscious changes. Your vague goal of being healthier suddenly becomes, hey, I drank enough water 5 days this week. That's real progress.
And this is where it gets really fun. When you can see your data, you can turn self-improvement into a game. Building a streak, seeing that bar chart get longer and longer, is so motivating. Your brain gets this little reward, this little hit of satisfaction, and it does not want to break the chain. It gives you this internal push to just keep it going.
So we've talked about the problem with the whole willpower thing, and we've explored this powerful idea of the observer effect. Now it's time to actually think about putting it to work.
If you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this: stop trying to force yourself to change. Instead, just apply a gentle, consistent focus. Become a curious observer of your own life, because that awareness you build, that is going to be the most powerful engine for the transformation you're looking for.
So I'll leave you with this last question. And don't think about next month or even next week. Just think about today.
right now. What is the one small thing you could start observing about yourself with no judgment at all, just to see what happens? That simple answer, well, it could be the start of everything.